Hello again, Veston here, and today I'm going to do another Top 5 Pokemon Johto League Champions episodes list. Since we just started Master Quest, I figured I'd wait a while until the time comes for me to cover that season. So, I'm going to cover episodes I had enjoyed like the other countdown, but I didn't get a chance to talk about initially. So, without further ado, let's begin. Translating at number 5 is the Poke Spokesman. In this episode, Ash and the gang meet a man named Simon, voiced by David Brimmer, who, believe it or not, is actually a Pokemon translator. Simon witnesses that Pikachu is exhausted from walking. If that's the case, why didn't Pikachu stay on Ash's shoulders the whole time? Anyway, Simon agrees to take Pikachu to the nearest Pokemon Center. But on the way, after a brief run-in with Team Rocket, Officer Jenny uncharacteristically thinks that Simon is a swindler who frauds people out of their money to translate Pokemon. Why did she jump to that conclusion, I hear you ask? Well, it's because she's trying to hunt down some gangsters who are phony interpreters. So, Ash and the others must find a way to clear his name before the Magnemite and Magneton destroy the electricity of the Pokemon Center. Oh, you probably already know what happens. Simon told the electric Pokemon not to do such a thing, and surprisingly it works. And Officer J decides to not press any charges against Simon and arrests the real phonies. The best part of this episode is, of course, the flashback Simon has when he was a child 60 years ago. At that time, a tornado was hitting the home he lived in, and was forced to take refuge all alone in the basement. But after a few minutes, he realized he wasn't alone. Also hiding from the storm were 3 Pokemon, Rattata, Pidgey, and Oddish. However, these Pokemon are different from the others, because these Pokemon were able to speak with Simon like Meowth and humans can. At that point, Simon forgot all about the storm and talked to them for hours. And I gotta say, I love Oddish's voice. Tara Sands knows how to do a little girl voice for Oddish. I can do a little Oddish myself. Here.
Oddish.
Unfortunately, when the tornado passed, the Pokemon returned to their natural habitats, and Simon never saw them again. Too bad there was never an episode where Professor Oak invented a special item that can help translate Pokemon for trainers. The only reason it's so low in this is because it's another one of those somewhat interesting filler episodes, but with only one major highlight, which was the flashback. I couldn't find anything else interesting about the story. So, let's move on and hope it gets better from here. Healing at number 4 is Sick Days. While taking a break from their Pokemon journey, Ash and Misty witness that Brock has fallen ill. They put him to bed at the cabin they rented for the day and decide to do all the chores that Brock would normally do. Ash and Misty go through somewhat disastrous results, like maybe a terrible dish that only Jessie likes, but they manage to pull through. Team Rocket's hanging around too, but here, they were just trying to get some apples to feed themselves until Ash stops them and takes all the apples back to the cabin. The apples even help Brock feel a bit better, because let's face facts, just because you're sick doesn't mean you can't eat. Anyways, throughout Brock's napping, he keeps dreaming about nice friendly meadows and dream girls, but there's a running gag where he gets constantly interrupted by Pineco and Golbat, who are babysitting him. It's nice to see that at least 2 of his Pokemon are able to keep him company until he gets better, but why go all through all that trouble of interrupting his dream? Okay, to be fair, they actually did interrupt him one more time, but this time for an emergency. As the Pokemon were napping for the night, they got kidnapped by Team Rocket. No surprise. And Brock, having enough energy from his long nap, decides to come out at the last minute to help Ash and Misty stop Team Rocket, with Pineco, Golbat, and Onix. I guess sometimes rest is the best medicine. However, after making a hearty meal breakfast with oatmeal, Ash and Misty decided that if he's going to avoid getting sick again, he should get some rest after breakfast, which he happily obliges. And by that time, Pineco and Golbat don't interrupt his nap and let him dream the way he dreams. Brock just keeps dreaming just as soon as the to be continued sign appears on the screen. This is another one of those characters who get sick episodes like the Stun Spore Detour. But unlike that episode, only one of those trio falls victim to illness, which is, of course, Brock. I gotta say, like they did with the Stun Spore Detour, this episode was very well done. Splashing its way at number 3 is the Joy of Water Pokemon. Now, this is an interesting fact, but this was actually one of the last episodes that was written by the show's original head writer, Takeshi Shudo. Here, he scripted an episode that would be about Nurse Joy. Ash and the gang find themselves in Lake Lucid, one of the cleanest and most beautiful lakes on the planet. Misty is more than excited to be there because Nurse Joy works at Lake Lucid and treats all kinds of water Pokemon. While Brock was love-struck, as usual, Misty was awestruck to meet Nurse Joy, because this Nurse Joy was the granddaughter of a grandma who helped fix Lake Lucid for pollution, in which her family wrote a couple of books based on those experiences. Nurse Joy offers the crew a checkup on their Pokemon, and it's here where Misty realizes the awful truth. Nurse Joy has aquaphobia. In other words, she's afraid of water Pokemon, especially the Gyarados that she keeps in a nearby tank. This was back when Misty was too afraid to come close to one, especially the one she had back in Cerulean City. But now back on topic. Misty is completely saddened by this bit of news, and that Nurse Joy is afraid of water Pokemon and she won't come near hers. And Rachel Osa's performance as Misty here really captures the bitter sadness Misty feels inside. This is completely Takeshi's writing right here. Nurse Joy apologizes about her phobia, and she explains the reason why she's afraid of water Pokemon. When she was a little girl, she and her mother were out on the boat investigating an increase in the Remoraid population. When all of a sudden, Nurse Joy fell off of the boat and cried in fear. The Remoraid were just playing, but she didn't know that. And even after her mother saves her, it fell to Nurse Joy terrified of water Pokemon. But that doesn't mean that she can't treat them as a nurse. She may be afraid of them, but that won't stop her from nursing the water Pokemon back to health, as she doesn't want her fears to be in the way of her job. But Misty was not so sure. After a little run-in with Team Rocket and their Tentacruel sub, they break the tank Gyarados was in, which sends the Nurse Joy's suit down the drain. Nurse Joy had no alternative but to tame the Gyarados without her suit. And as she calms it down, she recites the things her family wrote down in their books. And surprisingly, Nurse Joy was able to calm the Gyarados down and got her Chansey to find a new tank for it. But Nurse Joy fainted from the excitement. Let me tell you, like Ash said in Mewtwo Strikes Back, it takes a lot of skill to train and calm down a Gyarados. And before they leave, while Misty is sorry that Nurse Joy is still afraid of water Pokemon, she respects that. We get to close with her telling Misty that although she didn't touch her Pokemon, she checked them and they were in good health. I really appreciate how Takeshi Shooter wrote the story for this. He managed to give us plenty of emotion, not just from Misty, but also from Nurse Joy, when she unintentionally fell off the boat near the playful Remoraid. And the people behind the English dub did a fantastic job capturing his magic like almost all the episodes he's written. But this won't be our last emotional entry. Evolving at number 2 is Turning Over a Bayleef. It was a close call between this and the previous episode current events, but I think turning over a new Bayleef deserves to be talked about here, because this is about Ash and his relationship with Bayleef. After the events of current events, Bayleef still can't seem to control herself from cuddling up with Ash after she evolved from being a Chikorita. During a game of Fetch, Bayleef unintentionally pushes Ash into the stream. Ash, of course, scolds Bayleef for doing that, but Brock informs him that she had just evolved. She just doesn't know her own strength. But Ash was not so sure. Things get worse during lunchtime. Bayleef initially decided to not tackle Ash, who was trying to serve the lunch that Brock made, but Totodile was in the way. And Ash, who had not forgotten about the Fetch incident, misinterprets her walking up to him as if she was about to tackle him again. And still feeling mad, he says to her, and I quote, "to get away from me and stay away from me." This, of course, makes Bayleef very sad, and she runs away. Having avoided a swarm of Beedrill, a raging river, and landing near an elderly lady's place where she raises a Machoke, Skiploom, and Bellossom who run a beautiful garden. Meanwhile, Ash just realizes that he didn't mean to get mad at Bayleef. He was just carrying something hot, and he and his friends go out to look for her. But when they find Bayleef at the lady's place, by that point, Bayleef was angry at Ash for scolding her for something she wasn't going to do, and she doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. Ash tried to apologize and make amends to her, but it was too late. And I can't say I blame Bayleef because this is a hot topic issue. I mean, Ash falsely accused Bayleef for something she was preventing herself from doing. Of course this isn't just going to go away. Now, you might think after all this, Ash would have given up, and figured that she should just let Bayleef go back into the wild, because trying to make it up to her was just too much trouble, and he would have decided he was better off with Bulbasaur. But you know what? You'd be wrong. Team Rocket shows up in their Robo Bayleef and kidnaps Bayleef, Pikachu, and the ladies' Pokemon, except for Machoke. Ash, being the one behind the whole mess in the first place, goes after Team Rocket and uses all of his strength to get Pikachu and Bayleef out of the impervious glass. And after some thinking, Bayleef realizes that Ash does care about her and helps use her strength to get her and the other Pokemon out. And like always, they blast off Team Rocket once again. As the sun sets, Ash apologizes for being so spiteful at her earlier, and Bayleef, having learned self-control, apologizes in her Pokemon language for tackling him too much. But Ash reassures her that she can tackle him anytime, and Bayleef gives him a big hug, which is actually an attack she learned on her own, which was Body Slam. This is a very sad yet heartwarming story. It really shows that Bayleef had to learn on her own that since she evolved, she must learn to control her tackle attacks. And Ash had to learn the hard way to never mistreat his Pokemon like that. And the moral of the story is, don't be mean to Bayleef! Oh, I'm sorry, I kinda got carried away there. Bottom line, it was a stepping stone for both Ash and Bayleef. Okay, only one more to go. And the next, number 1 Johto League Champions episode is The Heartbreak of Brock. This one was written by veteran Pokemon writer Yukiyoshi Ohasha, who, believe it or not, I covered plenty of his episodes in my other countdowns like The Waterflowers, Cerulean City, Roll-On Pokemon, and Tricks of the Trade, to name a few. But that's not why I consider this number 1. The real reason is because we get to see how Brock feels when he's being stalked by a girl, in hilarious results. When our trio initially had plans to camp in town, as Brock gets some water, he spots a Nidorita that belongs to a girl named Tamaku, voiced by Carrie Williams. She almost falls over, and Brock catches her, and she immediately falls in love with him, which surprises Brock. Tamaku offers to let Brock and his friends sleep over at her place for the night, because, get this, her father, voiced by Dan Green, researches Pokemon. While serving her new friend's tea, while Misty is happy to see that Brock is being stalked for a change, she encourages, and by encourage I mean force, Brock to love Tamaku, because according to her, it is better to love someone who has the same feelings rather than someone who does not. But I have to side with Brock on this. I mean, you can't just force someone to fall in love with someone. It's never been done. If I was there, I'd be like, you stay out of this, Misty. Anyways, the next day, while Tamako shows the gang her Pokemon, which are her Nidorina and Nidorino, Team Rocket show up and try to steal the Pokemon. But here's the real kicker. After the smoke clears away, none of the Pokemon were taken. Lucky for Ash, but the bad news is that they accidentally kidnapped Tamako. It was here where she immediately falls high over heels with James, which of course startles James like crazy after the event with Jezebel. Jessie and Meowth see this opportunity, having learned that her father is a Pokemon researcher, and decide to use this advantage to go back and try to steal the Pokemon again with a plan that James reluctantly goes along with. While Ash and the other townsfolk round up a search party, Team Rocket shows up and brings Tamako home, where James acts as her fiancé and Jessie as her maid in honor. But when Ash and the others return, Misty immediately sees through Jessie's pathetic disguise. This was all a foil to steal the Pokeballs from Tamako's father. Tamako, not understanding the situation, tries to fight back when she gets hit by Poliwhirl's water gun, leaving her unconscious. I guess it's her way of saying, take me instead! This, of course, gives Team Rocket the punishment they deserve, with both a Thunder Shock and a water gun attack from Pikachu and Poliwhirl. As Tamako recovers, her dad explains why she was acting the way she was. They had just attended her cousin's wedding, and Tamako was so intrigued by it that she became so obsessed with marriage. Not like a good thing, if you ask me. But before Brock can express her real feelings towards her, Tamako immediately falls in love with her doctor, who I think might be around her age. She asks if he could marry her, which he obliges, thus breaking Brock's heart, as the title states. Although he never got the chance because he was too nervous, he realized that it's not the end of the world, and he decides to continue his journey with his friends, hopefully to find a girl that he has so much in common with. Overall, this is a very great episode. It's really funny, especially with Tamako fawning over Brock and James and envisioning what her weddings would have been like with each of them. And for once, it's nice to see Brock get a taste of his own medicine for a change. Too bad he didn't mention the time when Wilhelmina fell for Brock and for crying out loud. I guess he must have forgotten. Oh well, nobody's perfect. Well, there you have it. Those are my other top 5 favorite episodes from the Johto League Champions. What are your thoughts on those episodes I talked about? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And as usual, links to the episodes are provided in the description. Join me again soon. That is if the time is right. See you later, everyone.